Nothing in the world is inevitable, except death. We all have to die one day, but few know when it will happen. On the other hand, the people in this video were sure that they were about to die and therefore recorded farewell videos. Fortunately, they survived. These are 10 goodbye videos of people who thought they would die. So stay tuned here at Wisefool. Let's start with 42-year-old Khalid Khan. Khalid's home near the Indian city of Mumbai was supposed to have been renovated long ago, but last year's pandemic prevented the construction work. Then, last September, disaster struck. The 3-story building suddenly collapsed and Khalid was buried under the rubble. Khalid survived the collapse, but in the dark silence, he was sure he would die. So he picked up his smartphone and recorded an emotional video message for his wife and children saying goodbye.
अंदर दबा हुआ था, मैंने ये गड्ढा बनाया.
The 43-year-old Indian had no hope of ever seeing them again, and after 10 hours, a miracle happened. Emergency workers managed to dig their way to him and rescue him from the rubble. Let's continue with the American Kevin Diapenbrock from Texas. Kevin went on a motorcycle trip with a friend a few years ago and was enjoying the ride when something terrible happened. His friend braked unexpectedly, and Kevin went off the road and fell down a 15-meter deep ravine. He could barely breathe and could not move. In this situation, the biker was sure to die. After all, no one could see him lying in the ravine, and his cell phone had no reception at all. It wasn't even enough for a text message or an emergency call. So Kevin grabbed his cell phone and recorded a message for his family. He apologized to them for being so stupid and told them he loved them.
I want to say I love you guys. Sorry, I was being stupid.
Kevin also asked his parents to take care of his dog. When the cell phone battery ran out, Kevin was finally finished with everything.
10% battery.
After 27 hours, however, 2 other motorcyclists happened to pass by and heard his cries for help. Kevin was rescued and flown to the hospital. Let's move on to the nightmare of everyone who goes on an excursion, getting hopelessly lost. That's precisely what happened to American Mick Omen after he visited an old mining village in the Arizona desert. Mick was on his way home when his car broke down in the desert. He had no cell phone reception, and the only things he had with him were a bottle of water, a sandwich, 2 beers, and a bag of chips. Mick wandered through the desert in the burning sun and quickly reached a point where he was so dehydrated that he couldn't even swallow because his throat was sticking together. Mick was sure he was going to die and recorded a video for his sisters telling them how much he loved them.
If you find this phone and I didn't do so well, please tell my sisters how much I love them.
After 2 days, Mick was accidentally discovered by hikers and rescued. Let's continue with a shocking moment on board an airplane 3 years ago. 30 minutes after takeoff from New York, there was a loud bang, and one of the plane's engines exploded. Passenger Marty Martinez was, therefore, sure that his last hour had come. He quickly bought Wi-Fi credit and sent farewell messages to his loved ones. But that wasn't all. Marty also streamed the dramatic scenes on the plane live on Facebook. Fortunately, the pilot kept a cool head and managed an emergency landing, so Marty's supposed farewell video wasn't his last. Now let's move on to Jacob Childs. The 30-year-old was in the sea off the coast of the U.S. state of Queensland 5 years ago with a group to go diving. But then the current drove him further and further away from the others, and Jacob was washed away about 30 nautical miles within 6 hours. Despite this dire situation, the diver did not panic and documented everything with his GoPro.
So that's it. The sun goes down, they won't do nothing. That's a wrap on old Jakey.
Incredibly calm, he recorded what he thought were the last videos of his life and was eventually discovered and rescued by the Marine Police. By the way, Jacob has not given up his hobby, diving, despite this alarming incident. The story continues with 16-year-old George from England. The boy had been in a fight with a friend and was taken to a hospital for examination. A CT scan there revealed something terrible. George had a blood clot in his brain and needed urgent surgery. George, his father, and stepmother knew the teenager might not survive this operation and spent the last minutes crying together. Finally, George called his mother and told her that he loved her.
I love your mom.
But the operation went well, and George recovered. Today, he says that the incident made him grow up faster. Next, we turn our attention to the mountaineer Aaron Ralston from the USA. Aaron had made it his goal to climb all the high mountains in Colorado by himself, and that's why he was alone on April 26, 2003, when he hiked through a lonely canyon. Aaron was about to climb into a crevasse and was holding on to a boulder when it happened. Suddenly, the boulder, which weighed over 400 kilograms, broke loose and trapped his arm. Aaron was trapped and tried for 5 days to free himself from this hopeless situation. Meanwhile, he recorded several videos saying goodbye to his family.
My name's Aaron Ralston. My parents are down on Larry Ralston of Englewood, Colorado. Whoever finds this, please make an attempt to get it to them.
He told his parents that he loved them and bequeathed all his possessions to his friends. Finally, he resorted to the most drastic measure of his life. He sacrificed his forearm and could thus move out of the crevice. His story became internationally known and was filmed in 127 hours starring James Franco. Since then, by the way, Ralston has been a celebrated speaker who wants to teach people the value of life. Now let's move on to nurse Amber Cornhurst. Amber went hiking alone in the U.S. state of Arizona 5 years ago and was exploring the impressive rocky landscape when she lost her footing and fell 30 meters off a cliff. After hitting the bottom, Amber couldn't get up and desperately tried to dial 911 on her smartphone, but she had no reception. Sure she was going to die alone, she took a selfie of herself with her last ounce of strength and wrote, "Mom and Dad, I'm looking for help in vain. This is the end," on her display. Amber, by her own account, could not stop thinking about her parents and how much it would hurt her to lose her daughter. Fortunately, however, the staff at the hostel where she was staying had noticed her disappearance and sent out search parties. After 24 hours, Amber was finally rescued and taken to the hospital, where she worked as a nurse. Next, we have a man who almost became a victim of the pandemic. Matt Dockray from England had contracted the virus and showed such severe symptoms that he was placed in the intensive care unit of a hospital. It looked terrible, and Matt decided against FaceTiming with his family. Instead, he recorded a goodbye video with his smartphone and was sure he was going to die. After his lungs almost failed, Matt recovered and was soon allowed to go home again. The 39-year-old now appeals to all people to take their health really seriously. Let's now turn to student Amber Van Heck. The 24-year-old had been looking forward to her road trip through a national park in the U.S. state of Arizona for a long time and was just driving through the middle of the desert when her car sat-nav apparently went crazy and showed her the wrong way. Amber finally ran out of gas on a gravel road. And, of course, she had no cell phone reception in that situation either. Day after day passed, and at one point, the student was sure she would have to die there. So she recorded a goodbye video for her family and friends and told them how much she missed them.
I'm okay.
Finally, after 5 days, Amber plucked up the courage and started walking in search of help. After walking 18 kilometers, her cell phone suddenly had reception again. The student was able to call the police and was finally rescued. And these were already the farewell videos of people who thought they had to die shortly before death. Write us in the comments about which case you found the most moving. Otherwise, like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to Wisefool for more, and see you next time here at Wisefool.